Good afternoon and welcome to the final program in the Iowa City Public Library's 2019 Carol Spaziani Intellectual Freedom Festival. I always think save the best for last, and I think we do today. Again, for the 9th year we're trying to figure out, Reading Aloud is here with us today, and they're going to be selecting some poems, and I'll let Ina talk about that a little bit. So thank you for coming, and please enjoy yourselves because this is going to be a great program.
Good afternoon. We're honored to be part of the Intellectual Freedom Festival again, and it seems for the 9th time amazing. And every year we try to select programs, select poems that say something to the theme of why there should be free speech and not banning books and edgy poems. And we have a program of all kinds of poems today, but they're all from one book, and this book, this title of this book, was inspired by a long poem by Robert Hayden, a wonderful African-American poet who died in 1980. And in 1978, he wrote a poem called American Journal that was about an alien visiting America and commenting on what he saw. And you might say, well, it was 1978, and the civil rights movement was not very fully formed, but we have a very diverse group of poets in this book, and maybe you could think of them as like aliens looking at our culture and seeing what they find. So, our readers are Michael Chan, Connie Peterson, a new reader, and we're happy to have Jeff Young, Jim Piper, again, Sally Young, a new reader, Chuck Felling, who's been there from the beginning, Nancy Lynch, Kathy Mitchell, the wonderful Carrie Malone, and I'm Ina Lowenberg. And we will begin with American Journal. Thank you.
Please raise your hand, whomever else of you has been a child lost in a market or a mall without knowing it at first, following a stranger, accidentally thinking he's yours, your family or parent, even grabbing for his hand, even calling the word you said then for father, only to see the face look strangely down, utterly foreign, utterly not the one who loves you. You who are a bird, suddenly stunned by the glass partitions of rooms. How far the world you knew, and tall, and filled finally with strangers.
In Defense of Small Towns by Oliver de la Paz. When I look at it, it's simple, really. I hated life there. September, once filled with animal deaths and toughened hay, and the smells of fall were boiled down beets and potatoes, or the farmhands' breeches smeared with oil and diesel as they rode into town, dusty and pissed. The radio station split time between Metal and Tejano, and the only action happened on Friday nights, where the high school football team gave everyone a chance at forgiveness. The town left no room for novelty or change, The sheriff knew everyone's son, and despite that, we'd cruise up and down the avenues, switching between brake and gear shift. We'd fight and spit chew into big gulp cups and have our hearts broken nightly. In that town, I learned to fire a shotgun at 9 and wring a chicken's neck with one hand by twirling the bird and whipping it straight like a towel.
But I loved the place once. Everything was blond and cracked, and the irrigation ditches stretched to the end of the earth. You could ride on a bicycle and see clearly the outline of every leaf, or catch on the streets each word of a neighbor's argument. Nothing could happen there, and if I willed it, the place would have me slipping over its rocks into the river with the sugar plant's steam, or signing papers at a storefront army desk, buttoned up with medallions and a crew cut, eyeing the next recruits. If I've learned anything, it's that I could be anywhere, staring at a hunk of asphalt or listening to the clap of billiard balls against each other in a bar and hear my name. Indifference now? Some. I shook loose, but that isn't the whole story. The fact is I'm still in love. And when I wake up, I watch my son yawn, and my mind turns his upswept hair into cornstalks at the edge of a field. Stillness is an acre, and his body idles, deep like heavy machinery. I want to take him back there to the small town of my youth and hold the book of wildflowers open for him and look. I want him to know the colors of the horses, to run with a cattail in his hand and watch as its seeds fly weightless as though nothing mattered, as though the little things we tell ourselves about our past stay there, rising slightly and just out of reach.
Nem by Jericho Brown. They said to say goodnight and not goodbye. Unplugged the TV when it rained. They hid money in mattresses, so to sleep on decisions. Some of their children were not their children. Some of their parents had no birth dates. They could sweat a cold out of you. They'd wake without an alarm telling them to. Even the short ones reached certain shelves. Even the skinny, cooked animals too quick to catch. And I don't care how ugly one of them arrived. That one got married to somebody fine. They fed families with change and wiped their kitchens clean. Then another century came. People like me forgot their names.
Flat as a Flitter by Melissa Range. The way you catch it. Let me get closer to this, I'm sorry. The way you crush a bug or stomp drain cans of Schlitz out on the porch, the bread when it won't rise, the cake when it falls down after the oven door slams. The old people had their way to describe such things. But what's a flitter? I always asked my granny, and she could never say. It's just a flitter. Well, it might be a fritter. Then why not say fritter? Shit, Melissa, because the old people said flitter. And she smacked the fried pie into the skillet and banged the skillet on the stove and shook and turned the pie till it was on its way to burnt. Flatter than a flitter, a mountain when its top's blown off, dynamited, shaved to the seam, the spoil pushed into hollers, into streams. The arsenic slurry caged behind a dam, teetering above an elementary school. The old people said flitter. They didn't live to see God's own mountain turned hazard orange, midair pond, a haze of water whose brightness rivals heaven. When that I was a little bitty baby, my daddy drove up into Virginia to fix strip mining equipment. Everything to him, an innocent machine in need. On God's own mountain, poor people drink bad water, and the heart of the Lord is a seam of coal gouged out to fuel the light in other places. The old people didn't live to give a name to this kingdom of gravel and blast. Lay me a hunk of coal on my flittered tongue to mark the mountain's graves, to mark my father's tools, quarrying bread for my baby plate, to mark my granny slapping dough as if with God's own flat hand.
The Field Trip by Ellen Bryant Voigt. This time they're 13, no longer interested in the trillium on the path, but in each other, though they will not say so. Only the chaperone lingers by the alders, at the alder's tongue, watching the teacher trail the rest uphill to where the dense virginal forest thins and opens. At the clearing, she tells them to be still and mute and make a list of what they see and hear. A girl asks if she should also list the way she feels. She's the one who'll cite the shadow on the lake below. The others sprawled on gender-separate rocks except for the smartass perched on a cliff edge, inviting front-page photos, picnic marred by tragedy. From time to time, in the midst of the day's continual lunch, as the students read the lists that their teachers edits, the boy swears and stretches. He is, in fact, 14, doing 7th grade a second time, this same assignment also a second time. Pressed, he says he sees exactly what he saw before, ponds, rocks, trees. Shouting it back from the same vantage point out on the 12-inch ledge. Long pond, a ragged puddle underneath him, and what he shouts grows more and more dangerously insubordinate as he leans more and more dramatically over the edge. But he is, after all, the first to spot the hawk. And it is, looking down at it, amazing. The others gather near the unimpeded view, together, finally, standing on this bluff overlooking 3 natural ponds, hearing the wind ruffle the cedar fringe, watching the hawk float along the thermals like a leaf. And for a moment, belittled by indifferent wilderness, you want to praise the boy. So much does he resemble, if not the hawk, then the doom-shrubbed, fanned against the rock face there beside him, rooted in the fissure in the rock. But soon the hero swings back up to earth, The group divides. Just like that, they're ready for home, tired of practicing. 16 children, 2 adults, and 1 bad boy who carved a scorpion on his arm.
Walking Home by Marie Howe. Everything dies, I said. How had that started? A tree? The winter? Not me, she said. And I said, oh yeah? And she said, I'm reincarnating. Ha, she said. See you in a few thousand years. Why years, I wondered. Why not minutes, days? She found that so funny. Ha ha, doubled over. Years, she said confidently. I think you and I have known each other a few lifetimes, I said. She said, I have never been a soul on this earth. It was cold. We were hungry. Next time you be the mother, I said. No way, Jose, she said, as we turned the last windy corner.
Music from Childhood by John Yao. You grow up hearing 2 languages. Neither fits your fits. Your mother informs you moon means window to another world. You begin to hear words mourn the sounds buried inside their mouths. A row of yellow windows and a painting of them. Your mother informs you moon means window to another world. You decide it is better to step back and sit in the shadows. A row of yellow windows and a painting of them. Someone said you can see a blue pagoda or a red rocket ship. You decide it is better to step back and sit in the shadows. Is it because you saw a black asteroid fly past your window? Someone said you can see a blue pagoda or a red rocket ship. I tried to follow in your footsteps, but they turned to water. Is it because I saw a black asteroid fly past my window? The air hums. A circus performer riding a bicycle toward the ceiling. I tried to follow in your footsteps, but they turned to water. The town has started sinking back into its commercial. The air hums. A circus performer riding a bicycle toward the ceiling. You grow up hearing 2 languages. Neither fits your fits. The town has started sinking back into its commercial. You begin to hear words mourn the sounds buried inside their mouths.
Heart/Mind by Laura Kosicki. a bear batting at his beehive. How clumsy the mind always was with the heart, wanting what it wanted. The blizzard's accountant, how timidly the heart approached the business of the mind, counting what it counted. Light inside a cage, the way the heart, bird trapped in an airport, the way the mind, how it flashed on the floor of the phone booth, my last dime. And this letter I didn't send, how surprising to find it now. All this love I must have felt.
Becoming a Horse by Ross Gay. It was dragging my hands along his belly, loosing the bit and wiping the spit from his mouth, make me a snatch of grass in a thing small, a fly tasting his ear. It was touching my nose to his, make me know the clover's bloom, my wet eyes to his, make me know the long-fused secrets. But it was putting my heart to his that made me know the sorrow of horses, the sorrow of a brook creasing a field, the maggot turning in his corpse, make me forsake my thumbs for the sheen of unshod hooves. And in this way drop my torches, in this way drop my knives. Feel the small song in my chest swell, and my coat glisten and twitch, and my face grow long. And these words cast off at last for the slow, honest tongue of horses.
Girls overheard while assembling a puzzle. Are you sure this blue is the same as the blue over there? This wall's like the bottom of a pool. It's color I mean. I need a darker two-piece this summer, the kind with elastic at the waist so it actually fits. I can't find her hands. Where does the gold go? It's like the angel's giving her a little piece of honeycomb to eat. I don't see why God doesn't just come down and kiss her himself.
This is the red of that lipstick we saw at the mall. This piece of her neck could fit into the light part of the sky. I think this is a piece of water. What kind of queen? You mean right here? And are we supposed to believe she can suddenly talk angel? Who thought this stuff up? I wish I had a velvet bikini. That flower's the color of the veins in my grandmother's hands. I wish we could walk into that garden and pick an X-ray to float on. Yeah, I do too. I'd say a zillion yeses to anyone for that.
Romanticism 101 by Dean Young. Then I realized I hadn't secured the boat. Then I realized my friend had lied to me. Then I realized my dog was gone, no matter how much I called in the rain. All was change. Then I realized I was surrounded by aliens disguised as orthodontists having a convention at the hotel breakfast bar. Then I could see into the life of things that systems seek only to reproduce and conditions of their own reproduction. If I had to pick between shadows and essences, I'd pick shadows. They're better dancers. They always sing their telegrams. And their old gods do not die. Then I realized the very futility was salvation in this greeny entanglement of breaths. Yeah, as if. Then I realized even when you catch the mechanism, the trick still works. Then I came to in Texas and realized rockabilly would never go away. Then I realized I'd been drugged. We were all chasing nothing, which left no choice but to intensify the chase. I came to handcuffed and gagged. I came to intubated and packed in some kind of foam. This too is how ash moves through water. And all this time the side doors unlocked. Then I realized repetition could be an ending. Then I realized repetition could be an ending.
The Poet at 15 by Erica L. Sanchez, after Larry Levi's. You wear faded black and paint your face white as the blessed teeth of Jesus, because brown isn't high art, unless you are a beautiful savage. All the useless tautologies. This is me, I am this, I am me. In your ragged Salvation Army sweaters, in your brilliant awkwardness. White dresses like Emily Dickinson. I dreaded that first robin so. At 15, you slash your wrists. You are not allowed to shave your legs in the hospital. The atmosphere that year, sometimes you exist and sometimes you think you're Mrs. Dalloway. This is bold, existing. You do not understand your parents who understand you less. Your father who listens to ABBA after work, your mother who eats expired food. How do you explain what you have done with your hybrid mouth, a split tongue? How do you explain the warmth sucking you open, leaving you like a gutted machine? It is a luxury to tell a story. How do you explain that the words are made by more than your wanting? Te chinga o te jodes. At times when you speak Spanish, your tongue is flaccid inside your rotten mouth. De gracias at the hospital, they're calling your name with the accent on the E. They bring you tacos, a tiny gold crucifix. Your father has run all the way from the factory.
My Brother at 3 a.m. by Natalie Diaz. He sat cross-legged, weeping on the steps, when Mom unlocked and opened the front door. "Oh, God," he said, "oh, God, he wants to kill me, Mom." When Mom unlocked and opened the front door at 3 a.m., she was in her nightgown. Dad was asleep. "He wants to kill me," he told her, looking over his shoulder. 3 a.m., and in her nightgown, Dad asleep. "What's going on?" she asked. "Who wants to kill you?" He looked over his shoulder. The devil does. Look at him over there. She asked, "What are you on? Who wants to kill you?" The sky wasn't black or blue, but the green of a dying night. The devil, look at him over there. He pointed to the corner house. The sky wasn't black or blue, but the dying green of night. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. My brother pointed to the corner house. His lips flickered with sores. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. "Oh, God, I can see the tail," he said. "Oh, God, look." Mom winced at the sores on his lips. "It's sticking out from behind the house." "Oh, God, see the tail," he said. "Look at the goddamn tail." He sat cross-legged, weeping on the front steps. Mom finally saw it. A hellish vision. My brother. "Oh, God. Oh, God," she said.
From Summer Somewhere by Danez Smith. Somewhere a sun, below boys brown as rye play the dozens and ball, jump in the air and stay there. Boys become new moons, gummed dark on all sides, beg bruised blue water to fly, at least tide, at least spit back a father or two. I won't get started. History is what it is. It knows what it did. Bad dog, bad blood, bad day to be a boy. Color of a July well spent, but here, not earth, not heaven. We can't recall our white shirts turned ruby gowns. Here, there's no language for officer or law, no color to call white. If snow fell, it'd fall black. Please don't call us dead. Call us alive someplace better. We say our own names when we pray. We go out for sweets and come back.
At Pegasus by Terence Hayes. They are like those crazy women who tore Orpheus when he refused to sing. These men grinding in the strobe and black lights of Pegasus, all shadow and sound. I'm just here for the music, I tell the man who asks me to the floor. But I have held a boy on my back before. Curtis and I used to leap barefoot into the creek, dance among maggots and piss, beer bottles and tadpoles, slippery as sperm. We used to pull off our shirts and slap music into our skin. He wouldn't know me now at the edge of these lovers' gyre. Glitter and stream, fire, bodies blurred sexless. By the music's spinning light, a young man slips his thumb into the mouth of an old one. And I am not that far away. The whole scene is raw and delicate as Curtis's foot gashed on a sunken bottle shard. They press hip to hip, each breathless as a boy, carrying a friend on his back, the foot swelling green as the sewage in that creek. We never went back, but I remember his weight better than I remember my first kiss. these men doing something I used to know. How could I not find them beautiful, the way they dive and spill into each other, the way the dance floor takes them wet and holy into the mouth?
Hurricane by Yona Harvey. 4 tickets left. I let her go, firstborn, into a hurricane. I thought she escaped the floodwaters. No, but her head is empty of the drowned for now, though she took her first breath below sea level. Ah, ah, and oh, Mama, let me go. She speaks what every smart child knows. To get grown, you unlatch your hands from the groan, and up and up and up and up. She turns, latched in the seat of a hurricane. You let your girl what? You let your girl what? I did so, she do, I did, so she do so. Girl, you can ride a hurricane. And she do, and she do, and she do, and she do. She do make my river an ocean, memorial, Baptist Protestant birth. My girl walked away from a hurricane, and she do, and she do, and she do, and she do, and she do take my hand a while longer. The haunts in my pocket I'll keep to a hum. Katrina was a woman I knew. When you were an infant, she rained on you, and she do, and she do, and she do, and she do.
I'm going to read a poem now from Jo Harjo. Jo Harjo is the new Poet Laureate of the United States, and she is its first Native American. It's called No. Yes, that was me you saw shaking with bravery, with a government-issued rifle on my back. I'm sorry I could not greet you as you deserved, my relative. They were not my tears. I have a reservoir inside. They will be cried by my sons, my daughters, if I can't learn how to turn tears to stone. Yes, that was me, standing in the back door of the house in the alley, with fresh corn and bread for the neighbors. I did not foresee the flood of blood, how they would forget our friendship, would return to kill the babies and me. Yes, that was me whirling on the dance floor. We made such a racket with all that joy. I loved the whole world in that silly music. I did not realize the terrible dance in the staccato of bullets. Yes, I smelled the burning grease of corpses, and like a fool, I expected our words might rise up and jam the artillery in the hands of dictators. We had to keep going. We sang our grief to clean the air of turbulent spirits. Yes, I did see the terrible black clouds as I cooked dinner, and the messages of the dying spelled there in the ashy sunset. Every one addressed Mother. There was nothing about it in the news. Everything was the same. Unemployment was up, another queen crowned with flowers. Then there were the sports scores. Yes, the distance was great between your country and mine, yet our children played in the same path between our houses. No, we had no quarrel with each other.
Minimum Wage by Matthew Dickman. My mother and I are on the front porch, lighting each other's cigarettes as if we were on a 10-minute break from our jobs, it being a mother and son. Just 10 minutes to steal a moment of freedom before clocking back in, before putting the aprons back on, the paper hats, washing our hands twice, and then standing behind the counter again. Hoping for tips, hoping the customers would be nice, will say some kind word, the cool front yard before us, and the dogs in the backyard shitting on everything. We are hunched over, 2 extras on the set of Night of the Hunter. I am pulling a second cigarette out of the pack, a swimmer rising from a pool of other swimmers. Soon we will go back inside and sit at the yellow table and drink the rest of the coffee, and what is coming to kill us will pour milk into mine and sugar into hers.
We Lived Happily During the War by Ilya Kaminsky. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling. Invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous reign, in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, we, forgive us, lived happily during the war.
For the Last American Buffalo by Steve Scafidi. Because words dazzle in the dizzy light of things, and the soul is like an animal, hunted and slow, this buffalo walks through me every night, as if I was some kind of Peri, and hunkers against the cold dark, snorting under the stars, while the fog of his breathing rises in the air. And it is the loneliest feeling I know, to approach it slowly with my hand outstretched, to tenderly touch the heavy skull, fur and rough, and stroke that place huge between his ears, where what I think and what he thinks are one singing thing, so quiet that when I wake, I seldom remember walking beside it and whispering in his ear quietly, passing the miles, the two of us, as if Cyan or the lights of San Francisco were our unlikely destination. And sometimes trains pass us, and no one leans out hard in the dark, aiming to end us. And so we continue on somehow, and today while the seismic quietness of the earth spun beneath my feet, and while the world, I guess, carry on, that lumbering thing moved heavy, thick and dark through the dreams I believe we keep having, whether we sleep or not, and when you see it again, say, I am sorry for things you didn't do, and then offer it some sweet grass and tell it stories you remember from the star chamber of the womb, or at least the latest joke, something good to keep it company, as otherwise it doesn't know you are here for love. And like the world tonight, doesn't really care whether we live or die. Tell it you do and why.
That is our program for this year. Thank you very much for coming.